Hello and welcome to another episode of the To Baldly Go podcast, and thank you for joining me on my mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to baldly go where so many have gone before. My name is Aaron and I am watching Star Trek for the first time from the beginning, then discussing with my wife Abby and our friend Nate. This week we will be discussing Q Who, Samaritan Snare, and Up the Long Ladder. Now, make it so.
All right.
So, should we talk about the episode with Katie's favorite character?
Yeah, we should. She's just gonna leave now. Yeah, no, you're not. Thanks for that.
All right. So we'll
All right.
start out with the crew is hurled into a distant part of the galaxy by the malevolent Q, who sets them up for destruction by a race of half-human, half-robot aliens known as the Borg.
Does that actually say half human?
It does on the Paramount Plus episode description.
Well, that's
Now,
dumb, but
one
okay.
I had a criticism here, a critique of Paramount Plus that they should have buried the lead with that episode description.
Yeah,
Um,
a little spoiler alert.
so I ended up watching this episode twice. The first time was sitting at a Chili's in the Miami airport as I was traveling home, and I didn't look at anything on the description. I saw the title and I hit play. So
Yep.
I didn't realize that the Borg came in now.
hmm
So I got to experience that knowing that the Borg are a thing, but not knowing how and when they came in.
Yep.
So I do think that my critique there of Paramount Plus is that they should have buried that lead on the description. And I would imagine that this new existential threat is supposed to be a big reveal. So why spoil it with the episode description? So I did get to experience it that way, but then when I saw that going back and watching again, I was like, well, that's really dumb.
Well, I'm glad you at least got to experience it because I think it
Yeah,
is one of those like really, really awesome reveals.
yeah,
Uh, oh my God, we've got a new big bad, and they're a really big bad, like
yeah,
way out of our depth, big bad.
right. So yeah, that was, and I wish I could experience it not knowing the Borg exist and not knowing that they're a big thing.
Yep.
That is really about all that I know. I know they've got the space cube. I know that they assimilate and that at some point Picard becomes one of them, but that's about the extent of what I know. But I know that they are a big time baddie
Yep.
in the series and beyond. So it was interesting to see them like this is just how they come in, and it yeah, it was interesting. What did you rate this episode, Nate?
Man, so I ended up giving it a 9. I
Wow.
think it's a really, really good episode. Um, I I vacillated on kind of one thing, and I like the premise of the Borg, especially at this stage, where you've got that big bad enemy, and the Enterprise is completely outclassed, like cannot barely make a dent in the threat that's in front of them. Yes, they can throw some torpedoes and stuff at it, and it causes some damage. And then because the Borg are so advanced, they just heal themselves, and suddenly none of their weapons are effective anymore. And it's a big problem, right? And so I love that existential, completely outgunned, outnumbered, out everything. I think my biggest problem with this episode was I felt as though um, for this plot line, Q was a means to an end. He wasn't really a part of the story so much as he was a vehicle
Here's a
to introduce
catalyst for it.
that threat. and the convenient way to get out of it while preserving the fact that the Borg are much more powerful than the Federation. And that's the only thing he brought to this episode. And I like Q a lot, and I generally really like Q episodes. I think this could have been a 10. Um, but I just that to me was it felt like a misuse of the character.
Hmm.
That it was just we have to find some way to introduce the Borg to the Federation, show that they're way more powerful, but then extricate the Federation from that situation and build a tension for something that's yet to come.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to do that? Well, hey, let's have Q show up and go like this to the ship, and then at the last second go like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest challenge with it. Other than that, I think it's great. I think the Borg are awesome. I think it's really cool to kind of see the Enterprise be this powerful ship that couldn't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And know that, they are at the top of the pile when it comes to technology and, how advanced they are.
Right. Abby, what was your rating?
I also rated high. I rated 9.
Wow.
I started off already kind of laughing, right at the bat because it started off with just an every day down in engineering, every day with the poor new ensign down there who's just doing embarrassing things, and I'm just cracking up. And I immediately started laughing and it endeared me to the episode because she said thank you to the replicator, and I was like, oh my God, it's Aaron.
I
Just
thought
like
of
Aaron
you.
does every
Yeah.
single time, saying thank you to the Google and saying thank you. And now Devin says thank you to the toaster, and I'm not even mad about it.
My
So
first note was I say thank you to the Google and Alexa units we have in this house.
exactly, you 100% do. So that cracked me up on there because it was you. And then, so I like the beginning story. I always love Geordi episodes or Geordi centric things on there because I think it's just so easy to watch. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like you're watching a show. It just feels like you're hanging out with Geordi. And then just the entire interaction just cracked me up. She keeps touching him. It was just like a sitcom, and I was laughing so
Yeah.
hard. And she's like brushing him off, and she's like, "I think it's probably better if I just go change my own clothes." Thanks. Like that was a great way to start an episode.
It's funny, I already forgot that that's how the episode starts, but it is such a great,
Mm-hmm.
goofy um opening. And it's another one of those where I love these cold opens that they do that have nothing to do with the story. They're just interesting kind of standalone snippets, you know?
Yeah, it's funny that you mention it like a cold open because I love cold opens in shows like The Office or Parks and Rec or
Yep.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I never really looked at it as a cold open for this show. And that may change my perspective on some things of it because I I kind of looked at it like I wrote a note saying that at the end of the episode, the little vignette with the ensign at the beginning didn't add much to the story overall. They expressed how the Enterprise is this very desirable, even requested assignment, but then it also gave the reason that Picard was alone on the turbo lift going to his quarters, which is where Q hijacked him. So they
Hmm.
did tie it into the story. Um,
Yes.
but I was looking at it a little bit like, okay, what the hell did that add to the story?
Well,
Uh,
the
and
alternative
we
is
can
he's
talk
leaving the
about
bridge, right?
yeah,
Like, oh, I'm done with my shift and get on the bridge and in the turbo lift and then everything. And that's far less interesting
right.
than
So I didn't dislike it, but it was a little bit trying to look at the story construction, and I made notes in the next episode where they would have a single little comment, and I was like, okay, this is going to come up later, and then you could see that developing as it goes later into the episode, where I'm paying attention to how the stories are told and how they're constructed. So I was feeling a little like, okay, this had nothing to do with anything, but I also wasn't looking for a cold open. And now you say that, and it's just like, oh yeah, it
yeah.
wasn't a bad scene. It was just kind of like, okay, what does this add to the story other than a little bit of comic relief.
Yeah.
Not that it was a negative, but it
Well,
was just kind of like it just didn't seem to fit with the rest of the episode.
and remember too, it also introduces another character
Yep.
who plays a
Which
decently important role later in the episode.
which I'll say, yeah, and also didn't mean a whole lot. And then I did notice she was back in the next episode, so I was like, oh, cool. So
Yep.
they're actually continuing some of that, so that was good. I watched this one at the airport. I wasn't taking any notes. I was just watching it on my phone and trying to remember things. And I said this was a really solid episode, and I had that feeling of at least an 8. When I watched it again, taking notes, this is easily one of, if not the best episodes we've seen yet in Next Gen.
Yep.
This one's a solid full 9. I'm right with you. This episode was phenomenal.
We have a rare consensus. This doesn't
Yeah,
happen very
this
often.
this episode was excellent. Everything in it was great.
The Borg bringing us all together.
Yep.
We all assimilated,
Exactly.
which I don't think they've even talked about yet, so I shouldn't know that. I did make a note. Basically, like I struggle with Q because he, I, I, I don't quite understand what drives him and any of that, and I have to say it's weird. The image of the actor, the sound of his voice doesn't match my vision of somebody with that kind of power, with that
I think
kind
that's
of
the best part,
entity.
though.
Um, but there is something that's just like it does work though. But I did say Q is basically the Star Trek version of Doug Judy. If you've
Yeah.
watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Yes, just
is
shows up
he
randomly and
he is
causes
Doug
chaos and
Judy.
bleeds.
He shows up randomly and like fucks stuff up, but still like has this love and respect for Picard.
Yeah.
And so that was something I thought, and seeing it in that perspective where he's coming in and he's just excuse me, he's coming in and he's just messing around, sometimes because he's bored or whatever.
That's such a great analogy that I didn't put together, and you're 100% right.
Yeah, he is Doug Judy,
I love it.
the Enterprise Bandit, we'll call him. But yeah, I thought this episode was great, just start to finish. It was an incredibly strong episode. They really set an ominous tone throughout, and this just constant tension of there being knowing that there's more to learn that is not being told yet, and the way they revealed all of it was just great.
Yep.
There's still that uncertainty of how Q can, with the snap of a finger or the flick of a wrist, send them 7,000 light years away. But yeah, they had lines that really just built up that tension throughout. And basically Q saying that the Romulans and the Klingons are nothing compared to what's waiting. And that Q seemed concerned and afraid, but also like, all right, here you go. And like he's still testing Picard on stuff. I don't
Or is it more parent-like?
quite get that relationship yet, but yeah.
I don't know. He was also kind of parent-like with this one, though, because
Yeah.
it was a little bit more of a, you think you're all the big tough
Yeah.
stuff? Fine.
Yeah.
Go clean your room on your own. I'm
Yep.
not going to help you.
I think
I'll
that's
be right here.
It's a
I'm
different,
watching you.
But at the same
but-
time, that kind of analogy for a parent would be like a parent goes in and fucks up their kid's room and says, "Do you see what's coming?" And then
No,
says, "Now you can
It
figure
wouldn't
this
be
out."
like that. It would be like,
Because that's what he
hey,
did. He
fine. All of
threw
your
them
laundry
out to where
all of
they
your
were.
laundry is sitting in the laundry room, the place you have never walked into. Go deal with it. If you think you're an adult and you can do all the adult things, you're right. Go change your oil in your car. It's the same concept, just
It's also kind
based
of
to the
like,
thing.
hey, the weather's getting cold and you think you're going to wear a t-shirt and shorts to school. Okay, go do
Yeah.
that. Let me know how it works out for you. Right?
Right.
And then you come home and go, well, shit, I should have brought a sweater. Like that was a mistake. I
Well,
was not prepared.
but where I don't, I sort of agree with your analogy, but not entirely, is that they're trying to flee the Borg and they're going at like warp 9.65 and the Borg are gaining on them and still
Yep.
shooting at them. So how fast are those shots going
Yeah.
if they're going faster than warp 9.65? But Q then says they will follow this ship until you exhaust your fuel. They will wear down your defenses, then you will be theirs. Admit it, Picard, you're out of your league. You should have stayed where you belonged. But Q sent them there. So
Yeah,
where
but
should he have belonged? Not in Starfleet at all. I mean,
No,
they
well, this
weren't
like
goes back to
there.
the
They
pilot
weren't there
of,
because of Picard.
but this goes back to the pilot episode of humanity is not ready, go home. Stop
That's
doing
true.
this. You don't know what threats are out there, so I'm going to show you what threat exists.
Yeah.
Now, do you get it? Go home.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I yeah, basically the scene at the end in 10 Forward when Guinan was saying basically now this set things in motion earlier than it was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Which she's a much more curious character than I realized to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And her
Diana's
little
awesome.
fight with Q was kind of cool. Seeing like they're so like yeah, she seemed like just any other person on the ship to this point and is clearly something in an entity of something entirely different.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I liked how they brought it all back together, and Picard saying maybe Q did the right thing for the wrong reason, and perhaps what we needed most, or what we most needed, was a kick in our complacency to prepare us for what lies ahead. Um, I thought that was
I wrote
really,
that quote down too.
really
Yeah.
good.
Fantastic final quote for an episode.
Yeah.
Like,
And it builds this up and yeah, if it was just more, okay, now there's peace with the Klingons and the Romulans are kind of there, kind of not. They're just kind of around. This gives something bigger that the show can focus on, but not make the center point of every episode. But
yep.
still, there is this looming threat out there, and I think it was just excellently executed
Well, and I
to
think that the
bring
cool
it
thing about,
in and still has so much mystery to what that even is. It's just something that destroyed cities and just absorbs raw materials, and that's all the Enterprise is to them right now, is what Guinan tells him.
yep.
It, yeah, just yeah. This was easily one of the best episodes we've seen yet. I put it above what was the episode? A Matter of Honor.
The
And
measure of oh yeah, man of honor, you
yeah,
rate that very highly.
yep. So I put it above that one, and I say it's tough to compare to Measure of a Man because they are just such
Yeah, it's a very different
completely
episode.
different episodes. But yeah, just fantastic episode all around.
So what I like about these storylines too is, um, they've created this thread, but they also aren't beating us over the head with it, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of looking ahead, we then could do two more episodes that have nothing to do with that, right?
Hmm.
It is just this thing that shows up every once in a while to kind of remind us that there's a problem out there, right? Um, And yes, they're going to have the more day-to-day stuff, the more air quotes mundane stuff that they have to deal
Right.
with in a given episode. But every once in a while, the Borg are going to show up and fuck up everybody's day.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool. Like
Yeah.
I love how that breaks things up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know really what else to say on this episode. It was just so good. Um, it was good just watching it, and then seeing it a second time was even better. Just so much good in that episode.
I did
Awesome
love
quotes on this one for sure as well. Like we said, the one where it was the complacency of man kicking the complacency, but the
Yeah.
other one was, did you recall what he called Q when he first came back?
I was
I want to call this, I'm gonna start calling my kids this. You are next of kin to chaos.
That's literally the
Yep.
quote I was going to bring up.
I
I
was like,
love
that
Yep.
is a fantastic quote. And that's so accurate of what Q is. He is chaos,
Yeah.
but he also acknowledges later on the episode, you are exactly why we're out here. Like this dude is out here just to mess with them for no other reason. He's been kicked out of the continuum for one reason or another. So he's clearly not like doing well anywhere, but he's harassing this ship, but he's still the purpose of why we're out here. We're still going to learn and figure these things out.
Yeah.
And instead of doing what Guinan said when they were kicked across to the Delta, they started searching some of the planets and scanning. Remember? So Guinan's like, just get your butts out of here. Start heading home.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we're explorers. We've
That
got to start exploring.
if I were you, I'd start back now. When they had 2 years, 7 months, 3 days, and 18 hours at maximum warp to get to the nearest starbase.
And I think it would be a really easy thing to say that's the better idea, like they probably should. But I also think that if they had done that, Q would have let them do that for 2 years and however long.
Yep.
Versus the fact that they turned around and they faced it head on, probably got them home faster.
Yeah.
The other line that I liked a lot was, when Q is setting this whole thing up, he's got this great line of, the hall is rented, the orchestra's engaged. Now it's time to see if you can dance. I just really like that line. It's very Q and very overly complex, but it gets a point across.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in all, I think it's a really good episode.
It was.
I
Go
did make
ahead.
some other comments about it too, just things that Nate, I want to ask Nate questions on this. So
Okay.
did you recognize the correlation to Voyager and them getting booted across to this other quadrant? It is the Delta Quadrant. It's years away. And I couldn't help but think this has got to be like a successful episode when it came out, obviously, because it was enticing then. And you have to wonder if that's how Voyager spanned or spawned. Was it this was successful? Let's just start a whole thing, this whole ship out in
Use
this
that as
this unknown lands, new people we've never met before. It was a whole way to rebirth the series based on this episode. And ironically, maybe Paramount Plus gave it away for you, Aaron, but I did not remember the Borg came in with Q. And so when all of a sudden the Borg cube showed up, I was like, wait. Looks like all the technology was wiped out. I was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not remember even until I saw the cube. I was like, oh my God, it's the Borg. Oh my God, Q showed them to the Borg. Like, that's crazy. And as someone who's watched all the movies, all the stuff, read all the things, we know the significance of that, right? Like you're barely diving into what the Borg means and how, and you've watched I think one of those movies with me, and it's one of my favorites. So it's, how important the Borg is to this, but the fact that they kind of slow rolled it is what it felt like to me on that. Like, I don't know why how I watched it, maybe because I wasn't paying attention and I'm not watching all the Paramount previews and stuff like that. And I didn't read the synopsis. I just watched it. It was really this is where it started kind of moment, which was really fun to experience it almost for the first time again.
And that's why, like I said, I didn't read that the first time I watched it. Then when I was taking my notes, I wrote down their description, and that's where I was like, "Oh man, they should have buried that one a little." So I did get to experience like, oh man, they came in here because I I know little about the Borg, but I'm aware of them, which it would have been even better to experience not having that awareness that I do have, but still having no idea how they eventually came into use in the series. This was a great episode to see.
And then the only other thing that, because again, I watched future ones on this, so it was interesting the assumptions that were made on stuff or how they changed the story as it went along. So we had Riker in there looking at the nursery. He called it the Borg nursery, right? And he's like, looks like they da 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 da. Well, we find out later on either they changed the story on that very conveniently or otherwise, but it is interesting how it still fit. Like it still kind of fit in that, right? Like the Borg, what do they call them in later series? Maturation chambers.
Yep.
So, it's not actually the Borg nursery, it's something entirely different.
When they stimulate the babies and then they want to mature them fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then also how we're slowly figuring out how these species work. And that was what's crazy to my brain. Like, because I've watched Star Trek this whole time and they've always known who the Borg is. Everyone knows who the Borg is. It's not a question. It's everyone in the galaxy knows who the Borg is. And so to all of a sudden them show up and be like, well, I think this is where they plug in. They're one hive mind, maybe. Like just being so confused on it was so like, get out of there. You have no idea how dangerous this is right now. Get your butts out of there. In my notes, I called them the Borg 1.0 because they're not quite the Borg yet, but they're getting there.
Still gotta develop that a little.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good episode. I like this episode a lot.
Yeah. So much good in this episode.
Yep.
Is there any good trivia for this one?
Yeah, there's a handful. I have to skip over a bunch of them because there's a ton of spoilers in the trivia. So I just gotta make sure as I'm reading these that I don't give away anything. So the Borg were originally conceived to be a race of insects, as featured in the previous season's Conspiracy. So we talked about how that was supposed to be the introduction to the Borg, right? Budget restrictions meant that the decision was made to go as cyborgs instead. Nevertheless, Q still went $50,000 over budget. So there's that. The episode won 2 Emmy Awards for Outstanding Sound Mixing for a Drama Series and Outstanding Sound Editing for a Series. In the Observation Lounge, for the only time during the series, the outline of the view screen behind Picard blinks red alert during the first senior staff conference. Let's see here. This is listed as one of the 10 essential episodes of The Next Generation in the 2008 reference book Star Trek 101. Let's see. At the speed of warp 9.65, this is the fastest that the Enterprise D will ever travel under her own power and without superhuman assistance. So we found the top end. She's not going any faster than that.
And the Borg were still gaining.
Yep. Let's see. Q wears his standard outfit, being the uniform of a Starfleet captain. In one previous episode, however, he dressed himself as a Starfleet admiral. This is the first time in Trek history when Spanish is actually spoken. Con permiso, Capitan. Sorry, Abby, you're gonna kill me because I'm probably gonna pronounce this. The Daleks, Doctor Who. Daleks, thank you. Sorry, not a Doctor Who person. The Daleks and the Cybermen, two reoccurring cybernetic boogeyman races of Doctor Who, have been suspected to be an influence for the Borg, although the subtle details such as the catchphrase are not apparent yet in the Borg's first appearance. We'll get to the catchphrase. Q says to Picard, "You can't outrun them, you can't outgun them." In The Wrath of Khan, Spock says, "She can still outrun us and outgun us." Marks the first and only appearance of Guinan's office.
Really, her only appearance?
Yep. And yeah, that's the good stuff right there.
One last quote I see from this episode that I thought was pretty good, and kind of sums up, makes it. I think it's part of why the series works and why people like it. Thinking still about things like the hero's journey, and the heroes need to face threats. They need to face troubles and tribulations and hard times because that's how they develop, they grow. And Q, his last line of the episode was, "If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous with treasures that satiate desires both subtle and gross, but it's not for the timid." And I think that really describes an adventure, really, an adventure
Sure.
story, and that stuff. It's just like people are gonna die. They had 18 people die, and they didn't have to if Q hadn't sent them there. But he's like, you need to see what's out here, and if you don't want to face it, go home.
Yep.
So I think it just adds to everything else in the episode.
I
Yeah,
think
this.
and obviously, Picard realizes this at the end, but this is a moment where they realize that maybe their ego has gotten just a little too big,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
That
It was a
they've
reality
got
check.
everything figured out.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the world, nothing in the universe, nothing in the galaxy that can threaten them. And Q shows up and basically says, "Hold my beer."
Right.
Uh,
Well, they've got the biggest ship, right? They got
yeah,
the biggest ships and the best technology, the best trained officers. So they've got everything kind of against them. And I
yeah,
think, Aaron, you were wondering what the point of that first thing was with that ensign. I think that was intentional. It
Yeah.
was this was the
So
best of the
this is where people
best.
want to be.
This is where people want to be. This is the best ship to be on, the best experience. So if this ship struggles and literally just got their butt saved because Q decided to save them, it was a reality
Yeah.
check that any other ship could have blamed it on, well, we didn't have the right technology or we didn't have this or this. No, the flagship did not survive. And it is the best of the best. You have to be the best of the best to get on it. So
Hmm.
100%.
Yeah. So do we want to move on to the next episode?
Let's do it.
All right. Season 2, Episode 17. While Picard fights for his life in surgery, Geordi is held hostage by the leaders of an alien race in Samaritan Snare. Abby, what's your rating on this one?
5. I hated it.
I mean, a 5 isn't exactly hating it, but okay.
Okay, and here's okay. No. This is what I told Aaron in the car today because he's like, "What are you thinking about?" Apparently, as I was sitting there grinning to myself, and I said I was trying to figure out how to express this because it is a 5 on the next generation scoring.
Okay.
It is a 0 or 1 on the other scorecard from the original because any of these episodes compared to the original series are 8s, 9s, 10s, right? In comparison. I'm talking if I'm comparing this episode to Best of Both Worlds, things like that. This is a 5, maybe even lower. But I'm being gracious because I feel bad giving bad scores. So I did not like it. I did not like the cheesy lines. They had a lot of bad dialogue in this one. We had, again, Wesley acting too young for his age. You are a 16-year-old in a professional environment. Why are you still talking? Shut the hell up. Like, he even left the front seat of the shuttlecraft to get away from you, and you're still fucking talking. Stop talking. My 10-year-old has got better ability to read a
Also,
room than this kid
So
does. It's like, and like, I'm sorry, like he
but
almost acts a little
also,
Asperger's-y a
my
little bit. Like,
but
then I
my
might be like, okay, cool, maybe that's what's going on. But
but
no.
also,
my
hard to
favorite
pass.
hang on. My favorite note that I wrote down for this one was, ugh, Wesley is being a little bitch. said, I guess you would have preferred Commander Riker as a traveling companion.
Correct. That is exactly what I wrote.
That
I
was
wrote,
so bad.
Look,
I said
I
way too
but
teeny bopper for me.
but
Oh my
I
God, you don't want to
probably
play with me.
I'm probably closer to Nate on this one because after that bit of dialogue, I liked the way they used Wesley to pull out a different side of Picard.
yes.
And honestly, when Picard was sitting there talking, like giving Wesley the sandwich and talking about his experience as a fight as a younger officer, and all of that was a remarkable performance by Patrick Stewart. And we saw a different side of Picard. It reminded me, since I can't ever talk about anything without referencing other TV shows, it reminded me a bit of the season 7 episode of Parks and Rec where Leslie and Ron get locked in the office, and you see a vulnerable side of Ron explaining how he went to her trying to ask for a job. And you see that different side that you don't see when he's in his office or whatever. You don't see this side of Picard when he's on the bridge. You see it when he's vulnerable because he's on his way to get his heart replaced. And you see him from the perspective of a child, basically, or a teenager. And I thought that pulled out a really interesting perspective on him. And then turning into Wesley's question of like, have you always been this disciplined? But yeah, his first little line of, I guess you would have preferred Commander Riker as a traveling companion.
Look,
I was like, oh God, he's being such a whiny
but
little bitch.
but look, I will literally I literally wrote down Wes does ask some dumb questions. Like I get it. I'm with you. However,
You sound like the parent. Are you Wes's dad? Are you just like
I
trying to
have two
defend
points.
everything that your badass little
Yes,
child does? And you're just like, there is
100%.
nothing wrong with my kid.
My kid
No.
is perfect. Meh, 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 meh. But I have 2 points. One of them I basically already made, which is Picard's behaving like an asshole. Like, let's just call it like it is. He's not being respectful. He's not, he is making it very clear he doesn't want to be there, and we know why. And he doesn't want to be in that shuttlecraft with Wesley. He just has to be.
Mhm.
And as little as he can interact with Wes, the better. And that's kind of a shitty thing to do. Secondly, I think it's a really interesting juxtaposition because Aaron, you almost got there with this point of how Picard references himself when he was Wesley's age or a little bit older, academy, fresh
Mhm.
out of the academy, undisciplined, loudmouth, opinionated young man who is way out of his league.
Mhm.
Hey, is that Wesley? Maybe kind of. Are we pulling that all the way back around? That yes, Wesley has a lot of maturing that he needs to do, but that's pretty typical for someone his age. And oh, look, Picard was the same
So,
way.
so is Picard frustrated with Wesley because he sees the worst parts of
No,
himself
Probably.
no,
in there?
no, no.
Abby
Wesley,
disagrees. I don't know
bitch
if
and
anyone caught
whined,
that.
bitch and
She
whined because
disagrees.
they didn't want to sit at the table with him at lunch. Picard got into a fist fight with a bunch of aliens. Entirely different things. One is Mean Girls, and one is like, hey, I'm on the
Well,
job
I
defending
I would argue
XYZ, and I
that
don't know how
Wesley
strong I am.
they tried to kill Wesley in season 1. So how far off are we really? He
Uh,
was sentenced to death.
Because he was too immature to go with the adults because he was so embarrassed. They had their bellies showing in the boobs in the
I just
episode.
don't look. The dialogue is dumb and cheesy. I think there's a reason why they structured it like that. I think it is a plot device to remind Picard of where he came from
mhm.
and for him to realize, oh crap, I'm treating this kid like shit and I should probably be better at that.
Yeah. I so I'm interested to hear your rating on this episode, Nate. I gave this episode a 7. I thought it was generally pretty good. Um, the one specific line I've referenced by Wesley was just like I my eyes just went
I know
completely
my eyes
around
do.
in the eye roll. But I thought it was a fine episode, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was just a good episode. They told a story in the time. They had the A and the B story, and this is where I'm paying attention to kind of the lines and the things where it's just like if you show me this in Act 1, it better come up in Act 3.
Yep.
And just this borderline throwaway line near the beginning where they said we will be a considerable distance from Captain Picard. It's just like, okay, that's coming back.
Yep.
And as things are getting to that point, I wrote down again, setting up for Pulaski to be the only one who can save Picard, but the Enterprise is far away, and they're going to need to maybe decide between Picard and Geordi. And like 10 seconds later, oh, there it is. And they were able to make it all work out by using their crimson force field. Shoot.
Phew. But before I give my rating, there was I don't think if someone mentioned this line, I missed it. This might be my favorite line of the entire episode. It's cringy as all hell, and I'm sure
Uh,
Abby hated it too
where
because he
where
said,
women are concerned, I am in complete control.
"Yep, that one." I laughed out loud at that.
Me too.
Wesley was talking, I stopped listening.
It's such a funny line. And then I wrote down after that the confidence of youth, right? Like,
Right.
what the hell? Um, so I gave this a 7 as well. I yeah, it's cheesy, it's corny, it's the I'm blanking on the name of the alien race. Why did it leave me?
Because it was a weird
Yeah.
name. The
Um,
Permians or something.
oh God, what was it? This is gonna bug the Pakleds. That's what it was.
Pakleds.
Um, they're dumb, but they're supposed to be dumb, right? They're supposed to look like bumbling idiots who are, we find out at the end are a little bit smarter than what everyone
Still
thinks that
pretty dumb.
pretty dumb, a little bit smarter, just a
Hmm.
teensy bit. Um, but the way Riker handles them, and how they kind of set things up, like the cheesy dialogue, I think was very intentionally cheesy.
Yeah.
Um, and
No,
I
no,
loved
that's not
that.
what I'm talking about.
I know you're talking about
I
Wesley.
will fight. I will fight on the cheesy dialogue. I wrote them down. So, what has happened to him? He's been shot twice with the phaser. Enter Pulaski onto the scene. Oh, we must get him out. He must be hurt, or he might be hurt. Thank you, Dr. Pulaski. We just told you he was shot twice with a phaser. I appreciate you helping with that. And then my favorite is then Deanna Troi on the bridge, where they're like, he's near death. We need you to come right now. And Troi goes, and everything is going on. And then she just pipes up, we need to save Captain Picard. Thanks, counselor. Are you giving a suggestion on what we're supposed to do here?
Maybe they needed to fill 30
We have
seconds
to
of
save
time for a
Captain
commercial break. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was so the dialogue on this one. It was just like, thank you, Pulaski, thank you, Captain Obvious. It was she had a number of those like obvious lines, and I don't understand like why he wouldn't let her operate to begin with. That just bothered me, and
Well,
I just
she said it right at the top. You do have an ego, don't you? Like,
it's just dumb.
he is so concerned with his image as it relates to the crew of that ship. He didn't want there to be any indication that and frankly, he's embarrassed of what happened to him, right?
Yeah.
So the fewer people who know, the better. I mean,
Yeah.
I will admittedly say that the whole, I don't know if you consider it the B plot, but the whole Picard side of that story was better than the Pakled side of the story.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed the episode. Like I think
I did too. I liked the scene where they were talking in code to get Geordi to know
yeah.
what to do.
And Data
And
being
just
so over the top with goodbye, Geordi.
and they were still able to like showing the Pakleds were still pretty stupid. They were able to get through. Like I loved Geordi's line. They used their crimson force field. It disarmed us. Just like oh God. It was just so ridiculous. But yeah, the
I
episode
feel like
I
we
thought the
were
episode worked. It wasn't anything special, but it was better than just okay. I thought not great, but just it was just
that
a decent episode.
that dialogue of them interacting with the Pakled had a
That's
very
fine. That was
no,
correct cheesy. That was
yeah,
intentional
but
cheesy. That wasn't
right.
just
Hmm.
bad writing where the actor said the lines with a straight face.
But the whole like the feeling of it had almost this like Mystery Science Theater kind of
Yeah,
like they're sitting there making fun of the episode as they're watching it and like
yeah.
making up lines. Or I always go back to we still joke about it in this house. But do you remember when we watched the riff tracks for Twilight? This is a long time ago.
I wasn't there for that.
Abby was, I think. One of you for sure was. We were at
Where were
Nelson.
we?
Probably at Nelson's house.
We 100% were at Nelson's house. We were
Was it
watching
Game
the
of
riff
Is this a Game of Thrones night?
This
No.
was
Back in the
around the
day?
same time we were doing like
Okay.
the Game of Thrones, but we were watching Twilight with the riff tracks playing over the top of it.
Hmm.
And there's a scene where what's his face shows up in her bedroom, and then the guy from riff tracks just goes, "What's my math homework?" And we still use that line to this day.
What was
But it
my
was
math
that kind
homework?
of feeling of like, oh no, it's the Crimson Force Field.
Yeah,
Like it
just
just felt like that.
yeah. Oh. My last kind of I had some other lines I thought were kind of just interesting throughout, but my last kind of just rant I had at the end of this episode has more to do with the name of it, the
Mhm.
Samaritan Snare. And it always bothers me when people seem to refer to helping somebody you don't know as being a quote good Samaritan. It's like that's not how the story went. The story went the people who didn't know the guy but should have helped him didn't, and then the guy's basically sworn enemy did help him as a Samaritan, which was yeah. So it
But
the
everyone
story
always gets it wrong to the
I
point
know,
where now
which
it's
drives me
right.
nuts.
Get it?
So a Samaritan story would be less helping some random ship, but then helping a Romulan ship
Yeah,
or something like that. I know I'm being petty and semantic about it, but some of the meaning I think gets lost when it's just applied so broadly. So
agreed.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. I don't have much else on this episode. Overall, I liked it. I thought it was good. Yeah.
No one asked your opinion.
I just love that out of nowhere. Nobody asked you.
So
Um,
I am very interested
Is that the
then
title of
to
this one? Nobody asked your opinion.
yeah, it might be.
Oh.
Um,
are we ready to move on, or is there any trivia worthwhile
there's
on
a
this one?
there's some good trivia in there. Um, so let's see here. I don't th this wasn't used in the episode as far as I remember. You guys tell me if I just didn't see it or don't remember it, but Will Wheaton and Patrick Stewart came up with the gag where Wesley encounters a non-automatic door for the first time. They approach the door, which Wesley stares at. Picard looks at Wesley as if thinking, "Aw, kids," and opens it for him.
I feel like that was a different episode, wasn't it?
It's in the trivia for this one.
Huh.
That's the next one with the fish people and the teleporter.
I guess it's possible they put it in the wrong episode, but it says Samaritan Snare, so I don't
Hmm.
know. Let's see here. This is the second of 2 appearances of Ensign Gomez. Let's see. The original plan is for the captain's yacht to be used to transport Picard to Starbase 515 for immediate heart surgery, but the producers decided to nix the idea due to budget constraints and to go with a traditional shuttlecraft instead. Ironically, the captain's yacht for the Enterprise D is never used or shown throughout the entire series.
I was going to say the captain has a yacht?
So the underside of the saucer section has a little thing that drops down, and it is the captain's yacht.
Does play a part in a movie later.
It will.
Okay.
So this is like one of those saucer separation things, emergency saucer sep.
Yep.
They did it so that they could use it again later. They knew that they just never got this in, so it never happened.
It's fair.
Let's see. One of the props used inside the Pakled ship is a CANK 23429 remote control unit for a World War II military field radio. The surface of Starbase 515's planet is the reused matte painting of Angel 1 from the episode of the same name.
Okay. I don't remember that episode.
Let's see here. That's the one, if I remember right, that's the one of the matriarchal society.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep, with the men who were hiding.
Yeah.
I agree.
So this is the second episode of the season in which Christopher Collins played the captain of an alien starship. He previously played Captain Kargan of the IKS Pa in A Matter of Honor.
Okay.
Let's see. That would be it. That's the good stuff.
All right. Well, after that discussion, I'm very, very interested to hear Abby's thoughts on this next episode.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
In which the crew's rescue of a missing Earth colony leads to the discovery of a civilization composed entirely of clones in season 2, episode 18, Up the Long Ladder. So, Abby, what'd you think of this episode?
This one bothered me less because it didn't have as bad a dialogue and it had some interesting philosophical points we had to discuss. So clones were made. Did Riker murder clones, murder people by shooting them, even though they didn't have consent to be made, that kind of thing. So I had some actual plot line to it on things like that. I don't like this flowback to like old school Irish. That kind of thing was a little cringy for me, where I'm like, look at this redneck lady. And then, so moral story, I liked it better than the previous one. I gave it a 7, I think. Because it didn't bother me. I was just like, this is kind of stupid. Basic comments I had on here. We have some what I called in my notes non-professionalism. So we've got Riker taking people back to his room.
What? That wasn't professional?
I don't know. No, not so much on that one for me. Like I don't know. That was a little like cringy. And then my favorite is Pulaski blackmailing Worf. That was kind of cool. Like, hey, I won't tell them that you're ill if you do this like cultural thing with me. Like, that's what?
Yeah.
Is that not
There's some problematical portions of this episode for sure.
What is this? I thought we were better than this here, people. I thought we were better than this. So apparently we just don't care. And then I had some questions about like actual medical terms on things, because aren't epithelial cells skin cells?
Yes.
They're like, we have epithelial cells that are missing. Like, you know how many of those you slough off every minute? We slough off all the time. Well, did you wash your hands in between here and there? Of course.
How would they know? Right?
Well, that's my point.
They saw the indication of the puncture wound or something. It's like,
well,
the cells are missing. Like, how do you know?
Oh my God. These 3 cells out of the entire body. Bullshit. There's no way. I call bullshit. Even in 200 years, we will not know when 2 cells are missing that they can clone from. Even though they said it was in the center of the stomach or whatnot. So I found that interesting. I did like the Irish female character. I thought she was hilarious. I did enjoy
She's
her
very fun.
character. She was a great comedic response. If you're acknowledging the fact that we have this very stereotypical Irish old school situation, Irish potato farmer kind of family, then it fits and it was funny. You can enjoy it for that mark, but it just kept kind of going a little too far for me. And then I don't know, it just seemed a little unrealistic. We're just going to take all of these people we don't know what to do with, and we're going to put them to you, and you just do that icky thing with them. You'll be fine. Just do that icky thing.
Everybody's gonna have 3 kids with 3 different people. Like,
that'd be a hard pass for me. Thank you.
I mean, his line at the end, let's go stake out my 3 women, bring in the clones.
Yeah, it just cringe.
It made
to
me
the
laugh.
max.
It's such a terrible line, and I laughed.
It was just so bad.
All right. I also gave it a 7. Well, there's some problematical parts. I could just basically recite everything Abby just said because it's pretty much spot on with everything I thought. The Irish stereotypes are so over the top in this episode, to the point where it is very funny sometimes. But it's also like, okay, like, sure, maybe. I think we're pushing a line.
Let's give some redeeming qualities here. If you're gonna go with stereotypes like this, like redeem them and don't make them just sound like complete and utter idiots through the
all the men are
entire
drunk
story.
and all the women are shrews is basically what I got out of the stereotypes for that.
Or all the women were ugly. Is that what you said?
They were shrews.
Oh, what does a shrew mean? I don't know what that means.
Naggy.
Oh, yeah.
Yelling all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but beyond that, I mean, I think that this story is interesting. I think you're right in that there was a better philosophical debate that we could have had in this episode around, Riker killing their own clones and that whole thing that they kind of flirt with, but they don't go deep into it because there's so much going on in the episode you actually can't. But that being said, I enjoyed this episode a whole lot more than I thought I was going to. I remembered not liking it that much. And so I kind of went into it thinking I was going to give it a fairly low rating. And by the end of it, thinking, I don't know that I can give this less than a 7. Like, I think it's a decent episode. Aaron, how about you?
So when we were in the car and Abby said something about an original series 8, I was thinking she was talking about this episode. I thought this episode had a very original series feel to it. It disconnected from anything else, any other episode. It just, when they showed up with the farmers in the transporter room, it reminded me so much of the original series.
Like even the music, right? Because they immediately cut into the Irish.
And just the way all of that just very much reminded me of the original series, but not as well done as the original series would have done it. I thought this episode totally sucked. This episode was my last note was basically that Riker and Pulaski got stunned and dragged out of the Prime Minister's office after they refused to be cloned. I didn't take another note after that because the episode is so fucking dumb. I wrote dumb episode 5 at best. It was weird and disjointed. And I thought about it some more and I was like, I don't think I can even go 5. This episode is just bad. So I gave it a 4. I thought this episode just was so dumb.
If you had asked me,
so maybe I will enjoy it if I ever rewatch it because I'll have some renaissance with it where I'll just be like, okay, I did miss something. Because the last thing I wrote was it was just a dumb episode. Ugh. Did I miss something? Because I must have.
I and
Because
maybe, but I don't know that I can articulate what you missed, but I will
right.
say that if you had asked me going into this episode, like if we were all together sitting down about to hit play and you had looked at me and said, "You've seen this before, what's your rating going into it?" I probably would have said a 4. Like
Okay.
I think I would have.
Yeah.
Um and I watched it and then went, I don't like I had fun with this episode. It's not it's not the deepest storyline ever, but it's entertaining. It is just a shit ton of stuff
So
going on.
so
Like it moves at a
you
breakneck pace.
followed what Picard said to Riker at one point where he said sometimes you just have to bow to the absurd.
So I'm gonna pause this there for a second, and I am going to read the first piece of trivia on this episode. Are you
Yeah.
ready? It's a good
Uh-huh.
transition. We'll go back to the rest of it. But whilst filming the scene where Picard, Riker, and Worf investigate the fire in the cargo bay set by the Irish settlers so they can cook, Patrick Stewart found the dialogue so hilarious that he started laughing uncontrollably and forced himself to turn his back to the camera to continue. With cameras still rolling, Jonathan Frakes approached him in character as Riker, and Stewart, still laughing, turned back around and improvised a line about bowing to the absurd.
That's funny.
It's my favorite line of the entire episode, and I have 100% used that in conversation this week at work.
Bowing to the absurd.
Yes. Just a scenario that had gone so far that I had progressed past the point of being mad about it that I just had to laugh. Like there was nothing left to do but laugh at the fact that it was all happening around me. I bowed to the
That
absurd.
that line was one of the few notes I took on this episode. Yeah. I like the whole thing of Worf basically having Klingon measles that was revealed and then had nothing to do with anything for the rest of it. An excuse for Pulaski to, like you said, kind of
Blackmail him.
blackmail him
Yeah.
to get a Klingon tea ceremony.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was just this episode was all over the place. There was nothing that connected anything, and yeah,
No,
it was not good.
I won't disagree that that had nothing to do with the episode. I did not see that as like Pulaski blackmailing him or
I
anything.
really didn't either.
It was more Pulaski. Like I appreciated the fact that Pulaski covered for Worf
Yeah,
because he felt like if anyone knew what had happened, that was such a huge hit to his honor, and Pulaski found a way to cover that up, right? And preserve that. And yes, it had nothing to do with the episode. They could have taken it out and it changed nothing. But I
yeah.
think self-contained, I liked it.
I thought it was interesting how she just straight up lied to Picard about
Yeah,
it, but then at the same time, maybe they still have like HIPAA
yeah.
or whatever come the 2400s or 23 whenever. Um, but yeah, I yeah, especially after the last two, I really wanted to like this one, but it was just like, man, this episode is just dumb. They touched on some things that could have been some interesting discussions
For
on
sure.
the ethics of cloning, and you can look at I don't even know what the guy's name was, but the cloned prime minister. You
Hmm.
can look at him and appreciate his position and say, if you were in that spot, what would you do? But that wasn't enough to carry this episode.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting. Again, not explored very well, but this is another example that we saw so many of in the original series where in this case,
Ethics.
the antagonists, the clones, the ends justify the means,
Mhm.
right? They've gone on for so long, they've been so desperate for so long that it has that desperation has eroded their own ethics and morals to the
Mhm.
point where they don't care about the impact so long as they survive.
Right.
And you can argue right or wrong, and there's a huge discussion that could be had there, but that's just that reoccurring theme we see all the time in Star Trek.
It's something you can also say is wrong, but I can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about that before
Yeah.
too, right? Wrong but understandable. And so I think this is just another one of those things that fits into that column that, you know, I think it's a very human thing.
Yeah.
So
Was
in that
Riker
regard,
wrong to kill the clone?
was Riker wrong to kill a clone? No, I don't think he was.
It wasn't alive yet.
I don't know if I can argue if it was alive yet or not. Hard to tell, right?
And there isn't a right
If
answer
it
to
was
the
a
question.
clone,
I mean,
was it
there's been movies
suicide?
about this. Huh?
If it was a clone, was it suicide?
Also an interesting question, right?
Hmm.
I think it was something that he did without thinking, and that's what makes it questionable, right? He
Yeah.
didn't act with
He
thought. He
definitely did it
acted.
out of emotion.
He did it out of emotion, and that's what was the only thing that made it a difficult thing for me. It wasn't a, oh, I thought this through. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. It's a, hey, I'm pissed. Give that back, and
Yeah.
no damn the consequences kind of thing. And he was very rash and emotional in this one, which was an interesting, I don't know,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that could be explored within that. And
Yeah.
I think they could have done that if they had removed the other half of the plot with the colonists that had rejected technology, right? I think you take all of that out and expand the story of the clones, and you have a lot more room to explore some of
Hmm.
those ethical, concepts.
Yeah. Now, did I miss, were those two colonies somehow related to one another?
They were on the same ship
Okay.
that left Earth. One of them was part of like an anti-technology movement. So they were leaving Earth to go back to their roots, to get in touch with
You
nature again.
you understand the irony of getting on a spaceship
I
to
do.
go back to an anti-technology setting.
Yes, I understand the irony. The
And then
writers,
the other, there was a hull break or whatever, and they only had 5 survivors, and then they cloned and did that for 300 years, and we're getting replicative fading or whatever they called it.
I
Yeah.
I always think that's funny because it makes me think of um the photocopier effect where you repeatedly
Yep.
take a photocopy of a photocopy, and over time it just you can't tell what
Fades
it
to
is anymore.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's what this is, right?
Right.
You're copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and after a while it all just breaks down. So
Well, and then thinking through like the philosophical side of it when they were discussing like, okay, what if we do this? And Pulaski's just like, you're just
Won't matter
moving the
anyways.
goalposts.
mhm.
Like you're just pushing it out 15 generations, but nothing inherently has changed.
Yep.
And yeah, it was interesting that they asked like, well, why not just like normal sexual reproduction? And they were basically like, sex, ugh.
Yeah. And then later on, they're like, "How are we supposed to do it?" And the guy from the other colony goes, "You put a young couple together and let nature take its course." To which he had another very visceral reaction.
Yeah. I wanted to like this episode. I didn't. I Yeah, it just didn't do it for me. Maybe I will revisit years down the road and just be like, "Oh yeah, I think I hated this episode," and be find myself pleasantly surprised coming
I,
in with such a low bar.
I think that's
Um,
literally what happened to me.
but I mean, after in quick succession watching a phenomenal episode and then a decently good enough episode, this one I thought was definitely the lowest of the three.
Yep.
So I
Nice.
think that's about all I got on this one.
Me too. Abby, what about you?
Yay.
She's over it. All right, moving on.
So
Cringy dialogue again.
It's
Fine.
fair. It does have its moments.
yeah.
Generally
Yeah.
start at the top and work your way down. That's how you wash feet.
I did make a note that I think these were particularly terrible though, because we did come off of a fantastic episode. So perspective does play a part on this. And unfortunately, these episodes are gonna suffer. Not that they don't deserve all ridicule that they're getting for them, but I don't necessarily know if it would have seemed that terrible compared to something else. So
Right.
We ready for some trivia?
Yeah.
We already talked about the fact that Stewart improvised that line, which I didn't know until tonight, by the way. I had no idea about that. All right. So the title is part of a traditional Irish expression, up the long ladder and down the short rope, i.e., being executed by hanging. Which again, I didn't know. I'd not heard that phrase before, but makes sense. So Cole Meany, who plays Chief O'Brien, was reportedly not too thrilled by the story's depiction of Irish characters.
I would imagine not.
Shocking. The Irish guy didn't like the Irish stereotypes.
Which were insulting. I mean, he kind of has a right to be upset by it.
Yeah. So Bring Lloydie, the name of the Irish colony, we'll call it, because I think they were all kind of related, but is the modern Irish word for dreams. The ringed planet that is home to the Mariposa colony is a reuse of the footage used to depict Graves' world in The Schizoid Man. Let's see here. Oh, I wrote this down and I missed it, but there's trivia about it, so now I get to bring it up. The Mariposan clone guards are played by triplets, Floyd Weaver, Troy Weaver, and Lloyd Weaver, former boxers. Many viewers have mistaken them for Eddie Murphy, to whom they bear a noticeable resemblance. I looked at those and thought, did they cast Eddie Murphy in this? It wasn't. Like, you could tell it wasn't, but they look a lot like him. Let's see here. Picard refers to the European hegemony, which was formed in the early part of the 23rd century, saying that it was part of the first beginnings of world government. In fact, the European Union, which resembles this fictional hegemony, was founded in November of 1993, only 4.5 years after this episode aired. Captain Picard tells Commander Riker that he should read more history, just the same thing he told Wesley Crusher in the previous episode. We all know this because that's what we're doing next, but this is the final episode to air before the release of Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
Yep.
The HD Blu-ray DVD release of this episode revealed a visual gag that the production team inserted as it was too blurry to have been noticed on television screens in the 1980s. The Enterprise computer record display refers to a ship called the HMS New Zealand making a diplomatic visit to the planet Alderaan, thus linking it to Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
That's awesome.
Let's see here. Here, Whiskey Nerd coming in hot. When Odell orders whiskey from the replicator, he receives a cask-aged drink, as indicated by the liquid's color, he doesn't care for, probably because whiskey is a generic term. He should have specified what kind of whiskey he wanted, as in Irish whiskey fresh from a pot still, or some other according to his tastes. Well,
So he should have asked for red breast and he got proper 12.
yeah, exactly.
Ugh,
And I can guess they're not going to be sponsoring this.
No, don't think proper 12 is gonna kick in any cash our direction, and that is okay.
Love watching him fight, though.
Let's see. The original title was Send in the Clones. Odell speaks this line to the Prime Minister at the end of the episode. It is a play on Send in the Clowns, a song written in 1973 by Stephen Sondheim for the play A Little Night Music. Choice makes me think of The Simpsons, but here we are. So yeah, that's the trivia. That's what I got.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, perhaps what we most needed was a kick in our complacency to prepare us for what lies ahead. This might be one of the most profound lines we've heard yet. Q told Picard, "If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous, with treasures to satiate desires, both subtle and gross, but it's not for the timid." I still don't have a total grasp on Q. He seems antagonistic, but doesn't necessarily feel like a villain. He's an interesting character for sure. It is a dangerous world out there, whether exploring the cosmos or just living life on Earth. It is easy to become content, then complacent. And sometimes we can lose sight of what lies before us, and we need a, quote, kick in our complacency to prepare us for what lies ahead, unquote. Perhaps Q does want Picard and the crew to be informed and prepared for what is out there. Picard says maybe Q did the right thing for the wrong reason. Is it possible that Q did the right thing for the right reason? I don't know. I just liked how that message was presented. Now, the last point I want to discuss this week is the parable of the Good Samaritan. Anyone who grew up with Bible stories likely knows this one, the parable of a Jewish traveler who is beaten and robbed on the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. Today, this story feels like it is often used to mean help your neighbor, and your neighbor could be anyone. And while I think that captures some of the point of the story, I feel like it misses some of the gravity. So this guy was beaten, robbed, and left for dead. A priest and a Levite, both religious figures who would have been expected to give aid, see the man and deliberately cross to the opposite side of the road in order to bypass him. Then a Samaritan comes along and feels compassion. He helps clean up the Jewish traveler, puts him on his donkey, and brings him to an inn where the Samaritan pays for his stay, his care, and a promise to pay for any extra costs incurred. But here's the thing. This wasn't just some other person. They would have been enemies in their time. This wasn't just some random guy helping some other random guy. These were two people who probably would have hated each other to their core. And the Samaritan stopped to render aid, and then some. So it's not just about, do you help somebody else? It's about helping those you may have reason to hate, helping your enemies when even their own people won't help them. I guess that chances are if somebody said, hey, go help your neighbor, it wouldn't be too hard. You probably like your neighbor, or at least enough that you don't see them as a mortal enemy. But it's easy to help people we like or can relate to. All right, with that little Sunday school lesson in the books, I think that's as good a time as any to call it for this week. So, if you're watching along with us, next time we will take a break from The Next Generation and rejoin the adventures of the original crew in Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. As always, I want to thank you for spending your time listening to our conversations about Star Trek. If you enjoy what we're doing, please do us a favor and share it with a friend. Also, leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast app. You can find us on X at BaldlyGoPodcast, to BaldlyGoPodcast on Facebook, and to BaldlyGoPodcast.com. You can also find me at aaronemery.net. Nate and I have another podcast, The In-Lap, in which we discuss the current Formula One season. Listen to The In-Lap on your favorite podcast app. For Abby and Nate, this is Aaron reminding you to never give up, never surrender.
Let's go stake out my 3 women. Bring in the clones.